setting up authentication with Next.js and Supabase. Today's video is going to go over exactly how to set everything up so you can allow users to log in, log out, and you can handle authentication all throughout your application, whether it's in the server component or a client component in Next.js, or whether you're using middleware or a route handler. We're going to cover all that in this video. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Brian, didn't you just create a video on setting up authentication in Next.js and Supabase? And yeah, you would be correct. I did, but literally about 3 days after I published that video, Next.js came up with an updated way and some new packages of handling authentication, or Supabase came up with a new package to handle everything. So today's video is going to be the updated way that you should handle authentication with Next.js and Supabase. So we're going to get started here. And right now I'm at the Supabase docs. We're at docs/guides/auth/server side/Next.js. And really, this is a very great article here on setting everything up. And we're basically going to follow this article. I'll share some stuff here and there about just my experience with using this and some things I've learned and some things that have helped me out. But largely, you can probably follow this article, follow it step by step, and it should work pretty well. But we're going to do this together here. So I'm going to go ahead and for step one here, I'm going to copy this Supabase and Supabase SSR packages. We're going to head over to VS Code. I'm using the theme Winter is Coming here, in case you were wondering, but I'm going to run npx create-next-app at latest. I'm going to name this updated Supabase auth. I'm not going to use TypeScript just to make sure that this is as accessible as possible. In their docs here, though, you'll see as we go that they do this in TypeScript. So if you want to do this in TypeScript, that shouldn't be an issue. No ESLint either. I am going to use Tailwind, but I really don't think we're going to do any styling in this project. And then we're not going to do SRC. We are going to do app router. We're not going to customize the default import alias. So this is going to do its thing here. And then I'm going to go ahead and go File, Open, and then open this project within VS Code. So now we have this new project opened up. I'm going ahead and close these editors here and close these warnings, open up my terminal, and then paste in npm install at Supabase JS and Supabase SSR. So step one complete. Next step, we need to set up our environment variables. So here, as you can see, we need to set a next public Supabase URL and a next public Supabase anon key. So go ahead and copy these, head over to your project, and then at the root level of our project, we're going to create a new file. So this should be on the same level as your Tailwind config, your next config, your package.json. This file should be at the root level. So I'm going to do new file, and then it's going to be a .env.local file. And then I'm going to paste these environment variables in here. But now we need to head over to Supabase and actually get these keys here. So what we need to do is head to the Supabase dashboard. So I'm at supabase.com/dashboard/projects. If you don't have a Supabase account, go ahead and create one. It is completely free. Don't believe you need to put in your credit card information. I'm almost positive about that. So it should be pretty straightforward to do. So go ahead and create your free account if you don't have one already, and then come to this dashboard page. And then once you're at this dashboard page, we're going to go ahead and click on new project. I'm going to call this updated Supabase auth. I'm going to type in a strong password, and it's of course not going to be the same password I use for everything else. And then we're going to click create new project. So this is going to start creating a project here. And I think as it's creating it, yeah, so up here, you can see it's still setting up the project, but it does give us the kind of keys that we need. So this anon public, go ahead and copy that. come back to VS Code, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in the anon key here. And then we need to grab the URL, which is going to be right here in your project configuration. And we're going to go ahead and paste it here. And I'm going to delete this project in Supabase after this. So you can see all of my keys here, but I'm going to delete those just so no one gets up to any funny business here. Let's come back. So now we have these keys, and you can see even in this article, it pre-populates these keys with our updated Supabase Auth project, and it puts these keys right in here as well. So you might see them within this article as well, which is pretty dang cool. But since we already copied them, we're totally fine. So now we need to write utility functions to create Supabase clients. So to do this, we need to do a client component client as well as a server component client. So basically what this means is we need to give our application some sort of way or some utility functions to connect to Supabase when it is within a client component, and also a way to connect with Supabase when it is within a server component. So here it says create a utils Supabase folder with a file for each type of client. So let's come back. Within the root of our application here, I'm going to create a new folder, and it is going to be, what did it name this? Utils Supabase. So we will do new folder, utils /supabase. So we created a utils folder there and a Supabase folder within it. And then within Supabase, I'm going to create a client.js file, come back, copy this from the docs here, paste it in here, and then remove the explanation points at the end of this because that is going to be TypeScript specific stuff here. All right. So in the root of our project, we have a utils folder, a Supabase folder, and a client.js file in which we are creating our connection here with Supabase for a client component. And then we'll come back, click on this tab, and this is going to be for a server component. So go ahead and copy this file, come back, and then within Supabase, do a new file and do server.js and paste in what you see in their docs there. And then we're going to just remove the type annotations manually here. So go ahead and do that. I do have videos on TypeScript, but let me know if you guys would be interested in some more TypeScript stuff. I tend to do a lot of stuff in JavaScript though, just because I think it makes things a little more accessible. That sets up our connection to Supabase within a server component, and that is step 3. So onward to step 4, it says create a middleware file. And it says, since server components can't write to cookies, you need middleware to refresh expired auth tokens and store them. The middleware is responsible for refreshing the auth token, passing the refreshed auth token to server components so they don't attempt to refresh the same token themselves, and then passing the refreshed auth token to the browser so it replaces the old token. So our middleware file is going to be crucial for managing our sessions through cookies, is basically what it's doing here. So go ahead and copy this. And then in the root of our project here, so on the same level as our .env ignore and our package.json, create a new file, and it will be middleware.js. And then go ahead and paste from the docs, remove the type annotations here. Whoops, I did not mean to zoom in there. And then I'm going to fix up this line of code. All right. And maybe that's actually better to be a little bit zoomed in for you guys. Feel free to let me know if this is actually easier to follow along with. But I'm going to keep it like this because it fills out the screen a little bit more. But now that we have that, it also wants us to do a very similar thing at utils Supabase middleware. So go ahead and copy that file from this tab, head back to Supabase, create a new file, call it middleware.js, paste it in here, and then we will remove the type annotations because we are using JavaScript. So remove the exclamation points, strings, and if you're using TypeScript, I don't even need to finish what I was about to say because you're an intelligent person that doesn't need to be spoon-fed that much. So, all right, now we have middleware files all set up here. Let's come back, and we have successfully hooked up middleware. And now we can basically create our login page. Within our app folder, we're going to create a login folder and then this page file within it. So let's go ahead and copy this, come back. Within our app folder, we're going to create a new folder and it's going to be a login. And then within login, we are going to create a page.jsx file. So in Next.js, this is going to create a public route here at /login. And the reason that's the case is because anytime you create a folder within an app directory, that's potentially going to create a public route based on the name of the folder, but it only becomes a public route when you add a page file within it. So here, since we added login within the app directory and we added this page file within the login folder, it's adding a new route for our application at /login. And then we're going to go ahead and paste in what it had in the docs there. And as you can see here, we are also going to have a couple of server actions. So this login page here, as you can see, there's nothing, this isn't a client component. We're just using basic HTML. We are not using the annotation at the top of the file here. Use client, we're not doing that. So this is going to be a server component. So in order to log a user in from a server component, a server action is appropriate. So we have a login server action and a sign up server action. And as you can see in the docs here, if we go to app /login/actions, this is where we are going to create our login action, at least. So here, let's go ahead and copy this file. And then we're going to head over and within login, create an actions.js file, and then paste that code in here. And then we're going to remove the annotations here first. And I will explain what this code is doing here in just a second. So get these annotations out of here. And we should be set. So basically what we're doing here is we're importing a few things here. For one, we're importing our create client function from utils Supabase server. So from our utils Supabase server here, this is basically going to be the connection between Supabase and our Next.js application. I'm going to remove this because we're not doing any typecasting. And basically what the login function is going to do is we're going to call this server action. We're going to have the email and password data from the login page because for this input, you can see it has the name of email. So whatever value is in this input, when we submit this form, we're going to be able to access that value by using formdata.get email. And same thing for this password. It's going to be formdata.get password. And then let's say, I don't know, let's say that we also wanted to get their full name. We could do full name. And then here within our action, it would be formdata.get full name because we have an input for full name, but we're not going to do that right now. Then here back in the actions file, once we get the email and password, we're going to call. So actually here at the top of the file, we call this create client function, which is going to basically be an object that is returned from the Supabase JavaScript package that basically acts as a connection between Next.js and Supabase. And then on this Supabase object here, returned from create client, we're going to have some different helper functions. So here you can see we have supabase.auth.sign-in with password. And then to sign in with a password with Supabase, you need to pass an object that has an email and password property with a corresponding email and password. So here we sign in with password with this data from our form right here. We try to sign in with a password. If there's an error, then we just redirect them to an error page, which I don't have right now. So if it tries to redirect to this page, I think Next.js is just going to show a 404 page, which is completely fine for our purposes right now. And then it's going to revalidate our homepage and our layout, which is important because, there's not necessarily in our application, but in a lot of applications, if a user is signed in, they might see different copy and features compared to a user that is not signed in. So right here is where you'd want to revalidate all of your paths that might change with a signed in user. Because if you don't revalidate them, then if you go to those paths and it's just returning it from the cache, Next.js is basically just going to show you kind of stale data there. So you need to make sure that if you have any pages within your application that rely on whether it's a logged in user or not, that you make sure to call this revalidate path function, which is going to revalidate the Next.js cache, which will show them the updated features or copy that you need to for a logged in user here. And then right now, we're just redirecting them to the home page, which is just going to be our default homepage that Next.js gives us. And then here we also have a sign up form, which does a very similar thing. We can remove these type castings here, but this is going to take the form data, email and password, but then instead of calling sign in with password, it calls sign up with the email and password. If there's an error, redirects them to an error page. If not, it redirects them to the home page and revalidates the home page as well. We are then importing that login and sign up server actions into this server component, which is our login page. And then if I come back here, so this says to also create an error page. We can go ahead and do that quick. So error, and then page.jsx, and then paste that in here. And this looks like a beautifully styled error page with a ton of helpful copy. So here we'll come back, and that was step 5. Step 6 is change the auth confirmation path. So if you have email confirmation turned on, which is the default behavior, a new user will receive an email confirmation after signing up. Change the email template to support a server-side auth flow. Go to auth templates page in your dashboard. In the confirm sign up template, change this to this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this here, and it's the auth templates page in our dashboard. So go back to Supabase, and let me see if I can find, I don't see auth templates, but I see authentication. So let's go there. And then I see email templates, confirm sign up, and then we need to replace this with this right here. So go ahead and let me zoom in a little bit more. We are going to replace this with what it has in their docs. So I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to zoom back out. And then once you do that, make sure to click save. And we have successfully updated our settings, and make sure that's in email templates and confirm sign up here. And if we come back, so we have successfully changed this, and now we need to actually add a route handler for that kind of auth sign up workflow, because as you can see in this template, we set our site URL /auth/confirm. And then we send a token as well as a type here. And then you'll see in step 6 at /auth/confirm, we need to handle that. And we need to get the type as well as the token and do some cool stuff here. So let's go ahead and copy this file right here. And then we need to create an auth /confirm /route.js file. So let me see, was that within our app directory? It is. So app /auth /confirm. So app, new folder, we will do auth /confirm. And then within our confirm folder, we'll do a new file, route.js, paste in what it had in the docs. We're going to remove this, remove that type annotation, remove this up here, get that out of here. And what you're going to see is that this is basically going to handle a request to /auth /confirm. It's going to handle a GET request, and then it's going to expect a token hash as well as a type. And then based on that, it is going to use our Supabase client here, and it's going to be our server client because within a route handler, that is going to be handled on the server. So we need to make sure to use a server client. And for this, it is then going to verify the one-time password here with the type and token hash. And then if there's not an error, it's going to redirect them to the redirect to path here. Else, if there's an error, it's going to take them to our error page. This basically should allow when we sign a user up and they get an email, once they click on the link in their email, it should confirm their email and then redirect them back to our application. And that's what we're kind of handling here. So we now have that in place. And here it says access user info from server component. And you can see within the server component, you can just call Supabase = create client, and then it gets the data from the user. Congratulations, that's the last step. So I think now we can do this in a second here, but I think we have everything we need right now to get all set up. So I'm going to remove or close out of all these here, and let's cross our fingers here and hope that I didn't mess anything up. So we're going to run npm run dev in our terminal. That is going to start our project up on localhost 3000. I'm going to command click on this. It's going to load up localhost 3000 and we see our home page. But now let's go to /login and we should see, wow. I mean, if that's not the most beautiful login page you've seen, I don't know if you've seen many web pages, but let's go ahead and log in here. So I'm going to use an email and of course a super strong password that I can't see right now because my page is blacked out, but you could see that I did type in a password. And then I'm going to click sign up. And then it redirects me back to the home page, which I think is a good thing. Let me go check my email and see if I got an email. And hey, I did receive an email. So I'm going to click confirm your mail. And we are back at the home page. So now let's go to Supabase here, go to users. And I do see I have a user here. So I think we've successfully added a user here to Supabase. Now that I have a logged in user, how can I access that data? Well, that's kind of what it shows us we can do right here. So I'm going to go ahead and let me copy this right here. And in this example, it shows like creating a private page. So like it tries to get the user, but if there's an error or there's not a user, redirect them to the home page. So that's definitely something that you could do. And you know what? Let's just copy this whole page. So let's come back. Let's, within app, let's create a new folder. And then I will call this, I don't know, private, I guess. And then within private, I will create a page.jsx. Make sure it's a JSX so you get the much better icon compared to the JS icon. Paste it in here. And we basically, from our util Supabase server, we create our client and kind of access Supabase. We try to get the user here. If there's an error or there's not a user, redirect them to the homepage. Else, say hello to the user's email. So let's go ahead, come back to our application, and let's try to go to private /private. And we see hello, Ryan at ryansolomon.io, which is pretty cool. That's the user that I just used to log in. Now, we do have one potential problem here, and that is that we can sign in with a user. I just showed you how to access a user from a server component here, but we actually should probably log the user out. So within our homepage here, maybe what we'll do is, how do I want to do this? Maybe within app, I will create a new folder. I'll call this Logout. Within Logout, I'll create a new file called actions.js, and we'll create a logout server action. I think that would make sense. And then let's go to our login actions. Let's go ahead and copy our sign up function. Go over to our logout actions. I'm going to paste it in here, but we are going to go ahead and say use server. We're going to call this logout. We don't need any form data, so go ahead and remove all of this. And then I think I can do supabase.auth. I'm not totally sure. Is there like a logout function? I was hoping the autocomplete would be a little bit better here. So let's come back here. Let's look at Supabase. And if I just did a quick search of sign out a user in Supabase, I think it's auth.signout here. So let's come back here and let's just try that auth.signout. And I think this logic is actually fine. And within our page.js, let's remove this and then just put a button here, and then we'll say log out. And then I think I can do on click, and I believe we can just call a server action from this on click here. I'm going to call log out, importing that from our ./logout/actions. So let's go ahead and see if that works. So let's come back to locals 3000, and event handlers cannot be passed to client component props. That's right. I actually need to do, I think it's form action is actually what I need to pass here. And then let me refresh this, and it's still refreshing. And let's actually go ahead and let's just pass logout here instead of an anonymous function. And then I'm going to kill my server and then run npm run dev a little bit because I think it was a little bit stuck. So let's now refresh this. And okay, it renders. I see logout. Let's actually try to go to our private page here first to see if we're still logged in. And it does look like we're still logged in here. So let's go back to our home page. Let's click log out. Nothing really happened because our user experience is that good to where we're not even telling the user if that worked. Let's just go to the private page here again. And we see that that did not log our user out. So let's go check here. And okay, so for one, I'm not importing create client from Supabase server. So I would have thought that that would have like thrown an error and broke our app a little bit there. but I am, yeah, that is the logout function here. All right, I'm skeptical that this is going to work, but fix that import there. And actually, we need to do more than that. We still need to import revalidate path as well as redirect here as well. And it's not from React Router. That is incorrect. It is from Next Navigation here. So now let's come back. Hard refresh of the page. I'm going to click Logout. I still don't see anything, but I don't think I would expect to. Now if I try to go to private and reading through the Next.js docs here, I think I need to update this a little bit. So we're trying to use it as an event handler, which here it says it should be an on-click and then it should be a client component, but I don't really want to do that. So let's go ahead and maybe we'll just switch this to a form and then set the action that way. So let's come back and, okay, so here around this button, render out a form, and I'm not getting autocomplete right now because this is a JS file. So I'm going to change that to JSX. Now I see it's a form, and my action for my form is going to be log out. Rookie mistake, I know, guys. But then this button is going to be type is equal to submit, because I don't think our logout button was running. I ran a quick test here and tried to console log if it was running, and it didn't look like it was. So now we render a form and make sure that that's wrapping our button. So wrap your button here, logout button, with a form, make the action our logout server action, and then make the button be type submit. And I think that'll do the trick. And I have 3 errors and expected server HTML to contain a matching form in a p tag. And that's because I'm rendering a form within a p tag, which doesn't make any sense. So let's remove that here. Whoops. And let's just render our form right at the top of our page here. And let's see if that does the trick. So get out of here. Okay, no errors. We see logout here. I click logout. I don't see anything. I try to go to the private page. I can't go to the private page this time because I did indeed log out. So let's try it one more time. And it's not letting me because theoretically I don't have a logged in user right now. So let's try to go to login. I'm going to use the same email and password that I did before. And I just logged in. Now let's go to private. I do indeed see it. Let's come back. Let's click log out. Let's try to go to private here again. I'm not able to. And now let's try with one other user just to make sure everything's working. So I'm going to use a new email and of course a different password because I always use a different password. I'm going to click sign up and then let me go confirm this. And then I click this within my email that I used. Takes me back. I should be able to access the private page here, which I can indeed access. So we're almost done here. There's just one other thing I want to show you, and that is accessing the user within a client component. So real quickly here, we have the ability to log in, log out, sign up. Within Supabase, we should see our 2 different users. They both should be verified here, and they are. But how can I access this client within a client component? So let's just go within app. I'm going to create a new folder. We'll call it components. And then I'm going to create, I don't know, what client component should I create here? This isn't going to make any sense. Demo client component.jsx. It'll be a use client component, export default function, demo client component. And then now let's say that I want to see if I have a logged in user within a client component. How can I do this? Well, as you can see in accessing a user within a server component, we need to await auth.getUser, but we can't use async within a client component here. So what I'm going to have to do here is actually here at the top, I'm going to say const user, set user, and you've probably done similar stuff to this before, is useState, importing that from React. It's going to be null here at first, but then we're going to use a useEffect. And then within this useEffect, we basically want to do this logic here, but within a useEffect. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, paste it here, indent that a couple of times, and then I can't actually just call this await right here because I can't pass in await to this. So we need to create an async function get user, and then we can move our logic up into this function. And then I'll hit indent that a little bit more. And then let's fix this spacing. So get user, and then we want to use our create client, but this should be from our client util. So util's Supabase client. So we get our Supabase connection, we call get user. If there's an error, if there's not a user, we will just console.log no user. Else we are going to set our user to data.user. And then we're going to run useEffect here on mount. And then we need to make sure to call get user here within our useEffect. And then below this, we can just console.log our user. And we need to return something. So an H2 that says client component. And then let's render this demo client component within our page.jsx, which is going to make a ton of sense here. Demo client component, render that out, come back to our home page here, and we see client component. And if I inspect, I open my console, we should see a console log of our user here, which we do see. You see authenticated and my email and everything about the user. And this is within a client component here that we're seeing this, because we do indeed use client. So within a client component, you can access your authenticated user with a method similar to this, but within a server component, like within our, private, you can just use an async server component, Supabase, await get user, and then handle it just like this. So that is the updated way to handle authentication within Next.js using Supabase. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for tuning into it, and I'll see you in that next one.